Assalamualaikum. Welcome to this week's Sadakayan program organized by Quantum Meditation Society London. Today we are talking about something that we do all the time, speaking, talking, using words. Although this is something we've been doing since we were infants, most of us, I would say, are unaware of the immense power it holds, the power of sound, the power of words. Most of us are using uh, our words unintentionally, with the result that we are often harming ourselves, harming the people we want to help, our loved ones, and attracting um, negativity and misfortune. But all of us within us have the power to use this power of words in a positive way so that we bring out the best in us. It helps us fulfill our potential. We help bring out the best in the people around us, and we attract positivity and good fortune as a natural reward from the universe for doing that. And I know that it sounds quite a lot, but it's not really, because this is something that we do all the time. And if start becoming aware and intentional about how we use this, we can really change our lives. So words are sounds, and sound is energy. Those of us who follow us would know that we talk about energy and vibration a lot all the time, and the fundamental principle of the universe is, if you emit positive energy, you will attract positive energy. If you emit negative energy, you will attract negative energy. So the energy we emit uh, is influenced by many different things. It's influenced by how we feel, our emotions. Remember, emotions are energy in motion. So it is influenced by how we're feeling, what kind of not just at the moment, but what is our aggregate of our energy kind of at a base level. When you're just feeling kind of blah, your base level, is it is it a sad feeling, a burdened feeling? Is it kind of a blah feeling, or is it kind of a more positive feeling? So the energy we emit is influenced by that, but it's also influenced by our mood at the moment, and the words we are saying, and of course the actions we are doing. So every word has a vibration. Every single word has a vibration. And one word, depending upon who is saying it, the same word may carry different vibrations. When I say peace, it may not carry the same peaceful vibration that is emitted when my guru, my mentor, emits it, because he has more inner peace. So when he says peace, there is more of actual vibration of peace that's coming out with those sounds. So, but by choosing our words carefully, we can optimize the positivity that we emit and the positive signals we give to ourselves and to our subconscious. So today's talk is about a few ways, 5 ways of how to do it, how to maximize, how to optimize the power of words to attract positivity and good fortune in ourselves, amongst our loved ones, and as a benefit from the universe in our lives. So the first one, and in some ways the most obvious one, is to always say encouraging things. If you, this is very common, and I am fully guilty of it as well, even though I have been aware of this for a long time, but I too slip. It's very common for us to be very strict and very critical with ourselves and our loved ones. In fact, I would argue that we are more critical and um, more stricter and more critical with ourselves and our loved ones than we are to, say, a random acquaintance. Because we often think that, oh, we're holding ourselves and our loved ones, our close ones, to higher standards. So we say, like, oh, and we often think that if we kind of threaten somebody a bit, or sometimes as a mom, like, sort of tell them something that's a bit shocking for them, maybe that would kind of wake them up, and then they would start becoming more serious about whatever it is that I want them to be serious about. There is a lot of negativity that is being generated because of that. First thing that we really, 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 really need to understand is that every human being a has a tendency, a strong tendency to be consistent with how they define themselves. I mean, this, you may have heard this. This is one of Tony Robbins's most famous quotes. He says the strongest force in human psychology is to stay consistent with how you define yourself, how we define ourselves. I'll explain what this means in a second. So, when I am berating myself, when I'm saying, if I'm wasting time, for example, so I work from home. If you're working from home, you are kind of your own boss, right? So, and if you don't have some pressing immediate deadline or something, it is very tempting to waste time. So if I do that and then I berate myself like, oh, Bonani, you lazy fool, the risk that I carry doing that is my subconscious really labeling myself as a lazy fool. And if I then start believing I'm a lazy fool, according to this principle, my subconscious will then try to be consistent with my definition of myself, will push me towards being consistent with this definition of myself. I will then act in a lazy way. I will then feel more lazy. Why does this happen? That we want to be consistent with how we define ourselves, even if that definition is negative. Think of your home, right? Your home makes you what? Feel safe. Your home makes you feel safe. It is your structure in a chaotic world. Think of how scared you will feel if you're thrown out of your home. Suddenly, you don't have your home and you are kind of in the big bad world, you know? If you think of the world as big bad. Similarly, we don't often what we're not often aware of, we have sort of a home created out of our beliefs about ourselves, the world, how the world works in our minds. That is kind of like our mental, emotional, intellectual home that helps us create order in our thinking of the world. And to our subconscious, this structure made up of our beliefs and assumptions and about ourselves and how the world works is as important as this external home. It feels as threatened by the prospect of losing this mental intellectual structure by as you'd feel by your the prospect of losing your actual home. Because of that, the subconscious prefers to stay with the familiar because this is how it makes order out of a chaotic life, a chaotic world, through our beliefs and assumptions, especially our beliefs and assumptions about ourselves. So, even if that is negative, even if that is not the best of us, we feel more comfortable being in the familiar. So, because of that, if I say things like that to myself about myself, like even if I say it in a joking way. So in some cultures, we the culture we're in, we like to be self-deprecating, right? A lot of our jokes are self-deprecating. But if you do that too much, it may actually sink in. So when we do that, whether use actually saying the words aloud loud, words saying the words, or in our mind, we run the risk of actually creating an identity, creating a label for ourselves that actually harms us. Now, I think one of the areas this does the most harm is in our children. And I'll another day I'll go deeper into this. But something I've been noticing lately is that a lot of successful people say that nobody believed in them. Even when nobody believed in them, or they themselves didn't believe in them, their parents believed in them. So children, when they are born, they're a blank slate, right? So they don't know what to think of themselves, and usually they're fully self-accepting. When a child first goes to school, they don't know whether they're bright or not so bright, or sporty or not sporty, musical or not musical. They're just themselves, and then they go. But then labels start being thrown at them, right? This one is bright, this one's sporty, this one's musical, this one's this, so this one's not so bright, and so on and so forth. And if they accept that label, then again, and if it's a negative label, then again, they run the risk of trying to live to they run the risk of basically fulfilling that prophecy, that label becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. This there has been like interesting research that's been done, and I'll tell you about that in a second. Let me tell you a story of a Zen master. Uh, Actually, no, this is not a Zen master. This is a story of a priest, I believe, and see how all the lessons in every religion are the same. The kind of the priests, the Zen masters, the Sufis, how they all understood certain principles that is now being also supported by scientific studies. So this one is about a priest or a Zen master, sorry, who who was um, who was in his home, and one night a robber entered the room, and the robber, usually at night people are asleep, the robber just assumed, the thief assumed that this person's sleeping, but then soon realized he's up. But by that time, he's kind of taken a certain thing. So he kind of threatened him, say like, "Okay, I'm going to go. If you do something, I will harm you." But the priest slash Zen master did not say anything. He's just being quiet. The thief robber took whatever he wanted to take. Only when he's about to leave, the priest said, um, "Won't you say thank you? You came and took all this stuff from my home. Are you not going to say thank you?" So then the the thief was taken aback, right? People have in every situation you have some expectations, right? So and when things don't go according to your expectations, you are taken aback. So nobody expects the homeowner to say, "Oh, at the end of letting you rob everything you want, say like ask you to say thank you." So he was taken aback. So when people are taken aback, they kind of act out of character. He just blurted out thank you. He didn't know what else to say. So he said thank you and he left. Now, some time later, this thief was caught by the police, was arrested. Maybe he went to rob other people who were not as generous. So he was caught by the police, and now he is in court under trial. And this priest has been invited to give testimony. He's a witness to his robbery, so he has to testify in court. So when the lawyer asks him, "Is this man a thief? Did he rob your house?" He says, "No, he's not." So then everybody is astounded, including the thief himself. And then the lawyer asked again, "Didn't he go to your house and take all these things from you?" He said, "Yes, he did, but he took these things and then he said, 'Thank you.' That is not robbery. That is just me letting him have some things. And he expressed his thanks for it. That's just something that I allowed him to take. He's not a thief." See, the evidence is he said thank you. So because of that, the thief was let go. Because of that, the thief was let go. And um, later on, he changed his tracks. He gave up robbing and he found another occupation. So a legal occupation. So this story, what it shows is the power of not labeling. When everybody was labeling this human being as a thief, the priest, because he was so wise, refused to label him such because he understood the power of that label. And this has now been proved by science. In the 1960s, a psychologist called Howard Becker actually did a study on people who have committed a crime for the first time. So what he saw, what he looked at was whether this person, this human being who has committed a crime, is being labeled as a criminal or not. And what he saw is when this human being was being labeled as a criminal, they were much more likely to engage in criminal activity afterwards. Because again, because of what we said, he has now accepted that identity of a criminal, and because of that force in human psychology to stay consistent with how you define yourself, he's just acting out his label. But the first time criminals, first people who you see, I'm falling into that trap. But these human beings who committed a crime for the first time, who were not labeled as a criminal, did not were less likely to engage in criminal activity. So here is a scientific proof of what the priest was trying to do. I will give you one more example, real life example of the same thing basically in a different way. So there was this writer from Singapore whose name is Lin Kin Wan. Okay, so when Lin Kin Wan was a child, he was not super successful in school. He wasn't doing well in his studies, but he had one teacher who believed in him, who would often invite him to his home, gave him extra lessons, maybe sometimes give him some food to eat. And um, and one day he told Lincoln One that, I have been teaching for 50 years now, and I can tell just by looking at the child if he has a potential for greatness. So Lincoln One, who didn't believe in himself at that point, believed his teacher. He thought, okay, if this man who indeed has so much experience with human nature, believes I have something in me, maybe I do have something in me. So then he became super serious in his studies. He started doing better, and then he went to journalism school and became a journalist. Now, here's the interesting part of the story. When after he became a journalist, one of the first things he did was report a theft. So he was sent to report a theft, and he for the newspaper he was working for the newspaper he was working, he wrote this nice article detailing how the theft was carried out and so on and so forth. And in conclusion, he wrote that someone who is intelligent enough to plan out a theft like this in such great detail and implement it so perfectly could be successful in any career he wanted. I wish he would stop being a thief and do something else, because he certainly has the mental capacity. Now, true story. Lots of people read that article, including the thief himself, including the thief himself. And his comment about being smart stuck with him, stuck with the thief, stuck the thief. Like, okay, what he's saying may be true. Maybe I am smart, and maybe if I can carry out a theft in such great detail, maybe I do have the capability to be successful in a more legal in more legal careers. And so he gave up thieving, stealing, and then he started a business and became a successful businessman. And years later, when Hin Kin Wan was older, an aged man, he met this person. I said, "Do you know who I am?" And he said, "You know, I'm this thief that you wrote about, and your comment struck with me, and I." I started to stop stealing and then started business, and today I am a super successful businessman. If you look around you, you will find millions of examples of things like this changing people's lives. What we all are born with immense capacity. What we lack is not capacity. What we lack is our belief in ourselves. And that belief can be created or taken away by words. That belief can be created or taken away by words. So, as a mother, as a father, as a friend, as a human being, it is very, 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 very important to use this power of words to create positive beliefs in people, not to break their beliefs. So because of that, if you if you by mistake sometimes end up uh, threatening your kids. What do parents do? Parents do sometimes. I was just listening to somebody, and they were going to a trip to Mexico, and one of her children had a super messy room, and she was super stressed about catching the flight, which I can completely relate to, because the most stressful times are when you have young kid, are when you're trying to get them out of the house and get somewhere on time, because they don't care. If they want to draw, they want to draw, because which is nice also, because they still live in this infinite time mind frame. But then she just told the kid, like, if you don't clean up your house, you're not coming to Mexico with us. And then this kid just started crying because he got very scared. But even very well-meaning people, parents can can resort to things like that at a super stressful, at a moment they're perceiving as super stressful. So if you ever resort to something like that, say sorry immediately, or whenever you realize, and explain that you didn't mean that, you just said it because you were stressed at that time, so that the belief doesn't have time to sink in. Also, as a parent, all of us should check what our expectations from our kids are, because sometimes, because we're protective, we tend to think about our shortcomings of our kids more, because we think, oh, this would put them in a trouble in the real world, so we have to do something to protect them, we have to make sure they overcome it, otherwise the world is going to be nasty to them, and so on and so forth. But even though the motivation behind that is good, if we do that, what we're doing is we're losing this opportunity to build up belief in them, and we're making them more focused in their shortcomings, and may even like create an identity. We're maybe sort of influencing in their creating an identity for themselves that is not the identity we want them to have, that is opposite from the identity we want them to have, which is opposite from how we want them to be. So it is very, 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 very important in this life to use your words for encouragement. And if you don't have anything encouraging to say, maybe it's better to be quiet. So that was the first point, but I really wanted to emphasize it. So the first point in using the power of words is say encouraging things. Use encouraging words with yourself and with your loved ones. The second thing that is very, very important is to try to be as truthful and authentic as you can be when you're speaking. We human beings blurt, like, kind of, can sort of, not too many human beings say lies that are very serious, but I've seen a lot of human beings say a lot of like white lies, just to make a situation easier, or maybe save someone's feelings, right? But if you are spiritual, you want to develop spiritually, and you want to your words to carry power, the you need to be as close to the truth as possible. I want to say, like, share a story from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, that was very interesting to me. Oftentimes, we are kind of in a dilemma about whether to speak the truth or save someone's feelings, right? So one time the Prophet faced a dilemma like this. A person gave him some food to eat, and which they lovingly prepared for the Prophet. But unfortunately, the food was not good. It was too much salt or something that's not made it like really bad in taste. When the food was offered to the Prophet, he ate it lovingly, didn't say anything. But the person who brought the food asked him, "What did you think? Did you like it?" So the Prophet thought about it for a little bit. He didn't say like, "Oh no, this is so bad. Oh no, you did this." But he didn't lie either. So what he says is like, "I've never had something like this. I've never had something like this." So he found a way to be truthful while saving this woman's feelings. I think it was a woman. Saving feelings. So it's kind of the implication is like this is amazing. So there is still sort of maybe you can say like the implication is still gray, it's not fully honest, but he tried his best to stick to the truth, be truthful, even when he's also being super, super sensitive to this person's feelings, as he always was. Our mentor, my guru, at one point, he told us that if you make it a point to always say the truth, if you use your voice always for the truth, a day will come when whatever you say will come true. So there's a lot of, again, there's a lot of spirituality that is connected to all this. So if you're someone who want to develop spiritually, you really need to use your power of words, your voice for the good, for love. Now, oftentimes we do things like, again, I am guilty of this. Somebody asks you to do something, you think you probably can't do it, but you still go, yeah, okay, I'll do it. Or you make some promise without really thinking it through, and then later on you have to tell them, oh, sorry, I can't make it by this time, I can't do this, can I please do that? Don't, that is not using the power of your words for good. So things like that in many cultures are super commonplace, and people don't think much about. Somebody asks for a direction, and then this happens in my country often, like somebody asks for a direction, even if you don't know the direction, people will guide you towards somewhere, even if they have no idea where it is. A lot of people, not everybody, absolutely not. So things like that will diminish the power of your words. Something else that will absolutely diminish the power of your words is um, is gossiping. So that's like gossiping is, again, this is something we will one day have, we can have several episodes on it, okay? But I will just say one thing. If you believe in some kind of a higher power, and if you pray to this higher power, whether it is God, whether it is Allah, whether it's Bhagawan, whatever your belief is. In Islam, it's said that your prayers won't be heard if you are a gossiper. If you have this habit of going, do you know, if you're when you're with your friend, like what you talk about is your other friend. You know, if you're with this friend, you're talking about that the third friend. Do you know this happens? Blah 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 blah, blah, blah. And you're pretending that you're discussing, but you know, you are having a lot of juice in it, and you are kind of feeling good that you know, we're enjoying talking about this other friend's misfortunes. Your prayers won't be heard. So it's very, 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 very important to not use the power of word, power of speaking in gossiping. And it will, again, like, uh, if you can stop this one thing, and if you are Muslim and you're going to fast, this is you have like an opportunity ahead of you, and because Ramadan is coming up, and if take this 1 month as a trial time to go without gossiping, it will make your fasting, you know, give your fast completeness, wholeness. But it's also some just be hyper aware of what you're saying during this time, so that you can then continue that in the long run. You will see like how much your life changes once you give up this one thing, and how much people's attitude towards you change, because everybody understands, like if I am now, when I'm with you, I'm talking about this third friend, right? And then, you know, and revealing their secrets and saying bad things about them, then you know that when I go to the other friend, I'll be talking about you. People are not dumb, right? People understand that, right? But if you see me protecting my friend with you, like, no, I don't think this is it, or when you are trying to say something negative about them, I am countering that with the positive about them, then deep down you know that I will do that for you too. Like if I go to the third person, they start saying something negative about you, your family, I will protect your secrets. I won't join in the negativity about you. I will probably counter that with something positive about you. People start trusting you a lot more. People open up to you a lot more. People respect you a lot more, because it's not an easy thing to do, because it's like most human beings give you that impulse, you know, in some form or another, you know. So don't use the power of your words for gossiping. And then the final thing I want to say is don't talk too much or too little. So think of words as a resource you have, just like money, just like you would use your money intentionally. You'd use your money to bring the most benefit to you and to others, right? This 10,000 pounds you have, how can you use it so that what's the optimal use, so that in your life it brings out the best rewards? Is it better to save? What part is better to save? What if I spend it? Should I spend it on myself? Should I spend it on others? What can I do to bring out the most benefit, the most happiness, the most joy, with that 10,000 pounds? It's something that needs to be thought out, and maybe slightly different for every single person, right? Think about words in that way. You have words to spend every day. How can you spend those words to optimize? And if you learn how to speak properly, if you learn how to use the most positive words, if you learn how to speak in a way that touches people, if you learn how to speak with enthusiasm, if you learn how to speak with moderation, not too much, not too little, your voice will become so powerful that you will be able to do amazing things with it. right? I mean, think of some of the most powerful people in the world. Many of them were speech makers, right? But that's their style, and that's one kind of power. But then on the other side were sages and stuff who said things that changed people's lives, that stayed with people, that sometimes came true. They sometimes attained powers with their voice that to other people were supernatural. So, so think of the power of your voice as something precious, a precious resource, and start using it intentionally. So not too little, not too much, because just like wasting money is a bad thing, like we talked about last week, wasting words is also not a very positive thing. So if you because if we do too much of it, inevitably it veers towards something that is nonsensical and does not have a positive impact in the long run. So that is our talk for today. I hope it will help you think a little more deeply about this power of sound, this power of word that all of us have been given. And if we learn how to use it in a positive way, it can bring us a lot of worldly and spiritual benefits, including happiness and joy and success and all the things that most of us want. So I am going to play the negativity, overcoming negativity meditation again. And I think it's a good opportunity for us to think about, reflect upon the kind of words we use and what we normally talk about, go through our patterns and see which of the patterns are positive, which are negative, which are kind of not so negative, but just a waste. And then think about how we can use this immense power of words in a more positive way in our lives. As always, give me a second to play the meditation and let me know in the chat if you're having any problem with playing the meditation and listening to the meditation.